Welcome back to beautiful Altadena, or the Ashes, the beautiful Altadena podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve. I can never get this right, Shauna.
Oh man, we were just saying all
Oh,
the last 20 minutes, technical difficulties, microphones not working right, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't connecting. What happened to this? And I thought you were gonna nail it, Steve. Welcome back
ah,
to After the Ashes, a beautiful
yes,
Altadena
thank you.
podcast.
That's why you're in
This is
communications and I'm not.
it's season 2, episode 11.
Episode 11. Yeah,
We are recording on Wednesday, March 4th, at about 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I say all that
it's
because
11:21
we're
here.
not at our normal times because Mr. Steve is gone to Washington and is reporting from DC. So I feel like we're gonna that's what we should jump into. Let's talk about why you're in DC and what's going on in DC and all the, I'm trying to think of the right words I want to use, but yes.
All the
I haven't
drama,
had, I
the
haven't,
mishegas.
I was going to say, those are the two words. I was going to say the drama, the intrigue, the mishegas, but I haven't had my coffee yet, and those didn't feel right, but I'm glad that you used the exact words I was going to.
See, we're even though we're 3,000 miles or 2,500 miles away, we're in sync
Still
here.
simpatico.
We've been doing this too long.
I know.
Um, Yeah, no, I was invited to come speak at a disaster finance closed door session with the Milken Institute. They have um, like a satellite office here, and that'll be this afternoon. In fact, that's where I'm going after we finish. That's why I'm in a tie. I have to look presentable for once. But while here, I was up on the hill yesterday, Capitol Hill, and had a lot of interesting discussions about disasters and where we stand. And there's been some developments that I think are important for people to understand. And I think that we're getting closer to some form of movement. Now, is it going to resolve itself? No. But I definitely think that things are starting to take shape after a year.
After a
So,
year. And what would you call movement? Because, for everyone who's listening who doesn't necessarily know, or let's say someone was just tuning in for the first time today, let's talk about
well, let's catch you up
Steve,
on the
Steve,
cluster.
just recap on the last year in about 45 seconds or less.
Take 500 substacks and put them into 30 seconds.
Yeah, you can
Um,
do it. I have faith.
Essentially what's happened is there is a goal to have something called a CDBG-DR, so community development block grant disaster relief, which is a supplemental. It's not it means that Congress has to vote on it separately from the regular budget.
Yep.
And we have been, quote, held hostage to this. In my opinion, other people would say the administration has held us hostage. I would say that we've held ourselves hostage to this money and live or dying by it. That's the 33 to 40 billion that you've heard the governor has requested and that Trump won't give us. And it's not that Trump doesn't want to give it to us. It's just that Trump doesn't want to give it, period, because the disaster recovery model is broken. And so the battle has been going back and forth between California, Congress, and the administration. And through the summer, there was an attempt to get CDBG money. The administration has told us unequivocally no. In the fall, they tried to get it into what's called the National Defense Authorization Act, which is one of the must-pass bills that Congress has to pass, and it's bipartisan. So you hitch a ride on that. That didn't happen. It got peeled out in December, as we wrote about on the Substack. They put a standalone bill in place in the House about 2 weeks ago or so. It's now over in the Senate right now, based on the conversation I had. And they had what on Monday voted to end cloture. So we all hear about the filibuster. They ended the unlimited debate that they could use to stop a bill. So the bill is now on the floor. It should pass, if it's going to pass, in the next few days, if not sooner. I don't know. Nobody was really
Mm.
giving me an idea. But it would then have to go back to the House from the Senate and have to be reconciled on its side and make sure everything's in alignment, or they have what's called a conference, and then it has to pass the House. And if it doesn't pass the House with its amendments, then the bill dies, or the bill, gets amended and goes back and forth. It's like a ping pong game. Um, this bill has some hair. I mean, that's the reality of it. So what it does is it gives an authorization to do CDBG DR. So it makes it permanent that there is now this standard program that exists as opposed to creating the program every time there's a disaster, but it doesn't authorize any money. So, or sorry, it doesn't allocate any money or appropriate money. It gives you the ability to do so, but
Mm,
it doesn't actually do anything. So it's, a meeting to have a meeting, so to speak. But being up here and discussing some of the things that we've been working on, which is the EDA component, which is a different path to bringing in the money and allows more flexibility, that has got a lot of, quote, it was said to me, we've rocked a few people back. So things got a little hairy yesterday up on the hill. It was an interesting day. I haven't done this in a while where it's been, you could feel the knives
mm,
out.
mm.
It's been
Yeah,
almost 6 years since, or 7 years since I've had to do that, but been here, done this. This is not unfamiliar territory.
yeah, I believe it. I think, do you want to talk about the EDA a little bit, just so that people understand what that
Yeah,
is too, in contrast to the CDBG money and that construct? And also, I
yeah,
think it's, maybe even, again, I don't want to go too deep, but for someone who's just listening to understand that, the CDBG, all of our acronyms, man,
I know.
that funding mechanism is kind of the standard. That's how it has
That
been
has
done.
become the standard,
It has
and
become the
that's your standard.
standard.
It's your
Yeah.
standard post-disaster relief money that states and cities are dependent on to,
Yep.
essentially fund this, and that's what our electeds and our machine have been fighting for.
Yeah.
Um, but again, that is only in the last 20 plus years that that's become the standard. The standard before that was state. The federal government would stand you up through FEMA, and then the state would come in and do the backstop. And then if there's supplemental money that comes in, the disaster, the federal government would do it. It really changed with Northridge, 9/11, and then especially after Katrina. Katrina is when this all kind of went out of control. So what the administration's trying to do right now is kind of grab this back to some form of center. And so CDBG comes through HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, the Housing Department of Housing and Urban Development. And to get the CDBG money, it has to run through what we call a sovereign counterparty. So that means a county or a state. And so, since most disasters typically have the state and the federal government working in sync with one another, this has never been a problem
Right.
until now.
Hmm.
And whether right, wrong, or indifferent, you can blame Trump all you want. We have decided that we've decided that in California, we're going to keep it the same way and we're going to fight for what it was. Even though we're going to fight Trump, we're still going to ask for, tens of billions of dollars from him. But, let's leave that aside for a minute. Um, Basically, what's happened is this sovereign counterparty is sort of the trump card that everybody's playing, no pun intended, and that the county believes or the state believes that because there has to be a sovereign entity on the other side of this, that eventually the federal government's going to cave. So, I started having some discussions with some folks and started to realize that we were at this impasse. And I said, well, what if we rethink this thing? And what if we look at it from a different perspective? And there's another agency that is already congressionally authorized. It's already existing. It's called the Economic Development Agency. It's underneath the Department of Commerce as opposed to the Department of Health and Housing and Urban Development. And EDA, the Economic Development Agency, does a lot of similar things, and they do a lot of rebuilds, especially or economic development and infrastructure development. A lot of the things that we talked about that we're going to need, in these different regions, and they have like these regional commissions. The biggest one, the most famous one that people probably on the West Coast don't know, but the one out east is the Appalachian Regional District, and it's done a lot to do economic development along Appalachia.
Hmm.
And EDA has a different authorization in terms of how it can form or how it can structure its grants and or how it can structure its money being allocated. And its structure allows for a bypass of the sovereign counterparty conundrum that exists on the HUD side. So if the federal government isn't getting support from the state or the state is being difficult, um, going through EDA as opposed to HUD allows the federal government to push the money out, but bypass the entities that they feel are not politically supportive and or potentially a risky counterparty. and I don't think, Shauna, you know this very well. I mean, it's not like the
Yeah.
city and the county have been, the example of good government lately. I mean, this
Well,
whole
I mean,
thing
you
has
kind
been a
of
cluster.
you say you beat me to my next question, which was simply going to be, what happens when you don't have that sovereign entity, right, to run it through, when you have a state official that is, locked in battle with your federal official, and when you
Yeah,
don't have, a trustworthy county or city counterpart to run the money through, then
yeah.
what? Right?
Well,
Like, I mean, and I
so
and I
so
raise that
EDA
because,
has
we know, I mean, we listen, we have an attorney general investigation looking into the failures of our county. So,
right, which could
that are
affect the
not
money coming out of the feds.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So,
So everybody is built around these rebuilding authorities. You saw the motion pass from the county a couple weeks ago with our supervisor and Lindsay Horvath, and they are ready to receive the money, but it doesn't mean it's going to come. And
right.
the EDA, you can use nonprofits that can be stood up that don't have to be a P3, P3 being public private partnership. There doesn't have to be a public component to this. And that's what makes this really interesting. Plus, EDA typically has a layered capital stack. In other words, their projects require different inputs of investment from different entities to get the grant money, which otherwise, the CDBG money just flows and that's the end of it. And that will just go, I call it the grant to nowhere. It's just going, the money's going to go
Yeah.
everywhere and nobody will be able to see where it went.
Sound
Um,
familiar? Fired?
well, and then, and again, like, it's not as if
Yeah.
our leadership,
Mm.
whether philanthropic, whether, that I call the corporate philanthropy. I'm not talking about all the philanthropic organizations, but like the corporate foundations, which are, government adjacent, are entities in government. They're all looking at this to flood and, prop up the city budget, prop up the county budget. I mean, I'm sure a good chunk of this money will probably go to the $4 billion settlement. There's many different ways that this is going to go that
Yeah.
EDA changes that dynamic because they can bypass the whole system, especially if there's a counterparty risk or there's been a difficulty in the government execute or the local government executing its function. So while it statutorily is allowed, customarily it hasn't been done. But we all understand this administration, what their feelings about customs are too. So
Yeah.
and
So, I mean,
and basically the people on the Hill were like, "Oh, you can? Oh, this is fascinating." And I'll tell you that the California folks were a little bit more
bristly?
perturbed. Huh?
Perturbed. I was going to say bristly. I was trying to
I
think of a
mean,
nice word for it. I mean, I'm sure this is upsetting their apple cart in a really big way, right? I mean, when you're kind
well,
of
and they
all in
had the
on a
ball
program and a
and they were in the
plan,
red
and
zone.
yeah, yep,
I mean, to use the football analogy, I mean, they were
yeah,
in the red zone, they were getting ready to score. And now all of a sudden, a blitz came out of nowhere and they're like, what does this mean? And
right.
whereas when I talk to different offices on the Republican side, because again, bipartisan, their attitude was, oh, this is what we've been waiting for. Oh, you can do this. Oh, you give more control to the locals. And it's not necessarily they can opt to go with government if government is cooperative, and if it isn't, they can go their own way. And look, the Palisades called for a 9/11 type rebuilding district from the federal
Hmm.
side
Hmm.
when the administrators of SBA and EPA were out. You know, whether you agree with what they're saying or not, this actually gets them much closer to what they're saying, and they don't need Congress to authorize it, which is a huge, huge win for, because of the speed at which this can go. Now, what's also interesting is the biggest thing to the EDA, the lack of this program is the affordable housing piece. So the big reason why the EO was created back in January was based around permitting delays and the delay in getting housing built. So in discussions on the Hill, I said, well, if we replace the HUD money with, say, low income housing tax credits instead of just a direct grant, which would still induce, low income housing to be developed because it's something we use all over the place. And considering the fact we're using it everywhere for how, to address affordability housing issues. It shouldn't be a political lift in California. But what the low income housing, what I would said was, if we can tie an increase in the amount that they could use for low income housing tax credits in disaster areas to a timeline. So let's just say you have 3 years after disaster declaration, that would force these projects to get through permitting quicker and thus get the rebuild started faster, which is a big
Right.
problem that people see here. So it starts
Yep.
to address some of these broader concerns that they're having. Um, and the other thing that we talked about that got a lot of traction was the idea of maybe allocating $50 billion to this. But the $50 billion is a glorified revolving loan fund. So instead of it going into a grant and then never coming back, it's money that has to be paid back as equity in the investment stack. So that,
Mm,
we go borrow, say, $6 billion to do a $30 billion rebuild. We have to pay back that $6 billion so that the next time there's a disaster, we just go borrow it. And it's sitting in an
yeah.
account in Washington as opposed to
And is
having to
that
go and get appropriations from Congress
and
each time.
is that an interest bearing situation, or is that,
I think it
no,
would
is
be
it a
based
matter
on
of
an equity basis. So, like, if
got
there's
it?
appreciation in the asset
Yep.
value that you're
Yep.
doing, that, if there's a way to do that, how can you monetize it? I think,
Which is
it,
fascinating, actually. Why would you not have that? Why would you not want to have that fund to tap into at any time? I mean, it kind of takes us. I hate to make this analogy or example or correlation, but the wildfire fund, right? I mean, it's terrible in the sense that, like, it's been funded for the wrong ways and for all the wrong reasons and for the wrong people. But it is the only reason that any of us and our neighbors are going to even remotely recoup what we lost following this fire. And, to
right.
think about that, if you like day two just knew that this fund existed and that you could
Yeah.
tap into this and, like, hey, what do you need? What do we need to pull? How many? Guess
Well,
what? We might have had a complete cleanup and post remediation testing. We wouldn't have been scrounging for couch change for that missing $100 million.
that's the whole thing, is that
Mhm.
we could have been going from the start. And
Exactly.
the conversations here are, the horse has already left the barn essentially for the wildfires and North Carolina. This
Hmm.
is not just us, obviously. Even though California
Yeah,
likes
it's
to
not
think it's
ABC.
ABC, it's not.
It's not.
Um, and ABC means anywhere but California. And the the reality is everybody's saying, okay, if we're going to reimagine this, let's reimagine this right. And these are tools that are available that potentially can be used and used effectively going forward. And if they're going to cut the amount, and the other thing that I think is really interesting about putting it in this, not an investment model, but this capital stack potentially paying back type thing, it creates discipline that doesn't otherwise exist.
Hmm.
And, you know, we're not going to
And when
just
you say
watch
that, I
money.
think it's important to say that when you say it creates discipline that otherwise doesn't exist, I think it's important for people to understand. It's like, again, it's like money just disappearing, right?
Yeah, it's a
Like we've
grant.
seen with the home,
It's the
yeah,
wildfire,
like we've seen with
the
the home. Well,
fire
it's
rate,
it's
and
it's fire
homelessness.
aid and homelessness. Exactly. Thank you. I was going to use the homeless example of where billions of dollars have gone. I mean, taxpayers keep voting like, yes, we'll put more money into this, put more money into this, fix it. And for what? Like, where's this money going? To $1,000 a square foot temporary shacks. I mean, it's insane because
Well,
we know it's going
again,
into pockets every step of the way.
you have to take care of certain constituents along the way.
Yeah,
Again, this kind of a model will require PLAs, so labor will get taken care of, and those special interests will get
yeah.
there. So for all intents and purposes, the trade should be very much supportive of this,
Hmm.
um, because it's going to
That's
get it out there
interesting to know.
quicker.
Yeah, it's
It's
an
going to get
interesting
it out
layer.
there quicker. It's going to be catalyzed. We need to do this now in California because we got the Olympics coming. We've got the World Cup
Yeah,
coming. We need to be showing movement. And right now, everything we've got is just delay, delay, delay.
right.
It doesn't
And
pay.
and and working on like piddly money. I mean, I can't tell you, and I know you too, how
What,
often
the
I hear
three and a
like, oh,
half
look,
million or
yeah.
3.8 million that you sent
Oh,
me? Yeah.
I'm sorry. That just made me like guffaw and spit out my coffee as people are celebrating it. Being said like, oh, $3.8 million for 30 to 50 people to get help building an ADU. And it's like, folks, could it be any more, in your face what that is. That's like, oh great, we'll find $3.8 million to help you raise the tax base. Not to rebuild your homes, but to help you rebuild, like build the tax base. Yeah, sure, why not? We'll find that money. But $3.8 million, even when people are, I was going to use the example though of like just people being so excited, like, oh, the CBDG money's going to come and we're going to have like a couple $100 million. Like, so what? A couple $100 million is literally nothing in
This is a
the
$10
scope of
billion
what's
dollar
needed.
project.
Exactly. We've been talking about this for a year at this point, and it's wild, the extent to which those who are so entrenched in this also, either don't understand it or just willfully want to parrot a party line versus actually dealing in reality. It's honestly like we've entered just bizarro Delulu land. I don't know what else to say about it because, as a bystander, and I'm not a bias, that's the wrong word. I don't think we're bystanders. We're active participants in this, but it's it's just been really interesting to see. I think you and I talk about this all the time. It's like it's quite the social experiment, right? To just see
Yeah.
how all of this falls down.
Yeah.
So
It's funny. I was walking the halls yesterday and I just finished up a meeting with an elected or, staffer with the elected. And I saw an LA County official walking down the hall, somebody I knew. And I was like, good to see you. And the look on their face was like, what the hell are you doing here? Like all the places in all, I mean, and not just, in
of all
those
the
like,
gin joints,
yeah, I mean, walking on the hallway in the House office building, right down by where I was.
and
I mean,
like,
you
and
couldn't
if you know,
script it.
it's if you know exactly whose office you were coming and going
Well,
from.
I mean, and it's kind of funny when you think about it because you go, okay, kismet, right? Like
Yeah.
bashert, as we say in
Yes.
Hebrew, or like it just serendipity. And I've had this happen to me time and time again up here, where things. I remember the first time I was up here, and I was talking to somebody about this morning, and I remember I was meeting with the House Small Business Committee talking about the court case we won back in 2017. And it was the first time this program in 80 years had ever been beaten. Nobody had ever done it. Everybody wanted to know how the hell did you pull this off? And so I went up there and I was in this roundtable, the Small Business Committee. And then afterwards, I went up to the House Veterans Affairs Committee because there was a VA issue. And on the way, I ran into this group of people who I was up against in the court case. They were on the Hill lobbying, and I had no idea they were there. And eventually, I get a text from somebody who I worked with at the time, who now actually works with me here. And they said, "Oh, what are you doing up on the Hill?" Like they walk into
Love that. Like,
offices,
what are
and it's like,
you doing here?
"Do you guys know who Steve Sachs is?" And they're like, "Oh shit, really?" Like that guy. That's a problem. And I almost feel like history's repeating itself again. When I saw this official from LA, I was like, uh-huh, here we go.
Well,
So
it's
things got a little, the turbulence started a little bit after that in
yeah,
terms of, reactions that people were having that I was
I
getting
know.
up here. And
Yeah,
that's a
I
good
wish we could
thing.
repeat the story that you shared with me yesterday. I wish we could repeat
No,
that. I know we can't,
no.
but I can think
No.
about it in my mind and be incredibly amused and leave all of our listeners wondering what could possibly
Well,
be so amusing. I'll just say it involves some 12-year-old humor and really send your head spinning and leave it at that.
the bottom line though is regardless of all of that, it's the evidence that something's happening because otherwise they don't care. Normally
Yeah.
there's so much going on up here in Washington that the last thing they need to do is worry about, you know, some nobody from Altadena talking about something. So something we're saying is hitting home, and that's a good thing because at the end of the day, guys, no matter no matter what we do, even if the plan that they have goes through, it's still going to be years before that money's unlocked. Whereas
Hmm.
what we're talking about can make it
It's like
happen quicker.
now. Yeah, I know, which is so frustrating. So frustrating. Um,
So,
I was going to share for anyone who's not who doesn't catch a clip of this because we do actually now record both audio video and there are some clips and we're going to push all of the video to YouTube for anyone who really wants to watch us back and forth or watch and see me periodically staring at my computer or Steve doing whatever he's doing. But today Steve is wearing a tie because he's on the hill, so he's in a shirt, he's in a tie. Um, And can't help but point out, Steve, that you were joking about the shirt and tie, but for sure there's also gel in your hair that's not usually there.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got to be
And
a grown up
meanwhile,
today.
I look like I just rolled out of a haystack. And in this case, the haystack was my bed because, oh my gosh, I woke up. I shared this with you, Steve, and we were texting early that like I woke up at 4 a.m. from a nightmare. I have been lucky not to have, I know a lot of people in our community have talked about having nightmares. I have not really had those nightmares. But wow, yeah, I dreamt that I was in a house that was on fire and no one would do anything. Everyone was just hanging around, and I was like, like get what you really want, or like go, like toss it out the window if you really want it and grab it, or like just get out. Like, why is everyone just standing around? And then someone was like, "Well, did you call anyone?" I was like, "Yes," and they're not coming. Like, get out of the house. It's
Boy,
on
is that
fire.
it's prophetic, right? I mean,
Well,
when
I
you
mean,
think
I
about
think
it
it's,
from a symbolic
I,
perspective or
I
metaphoric
think it,
perspective, I mean,
oh,
that's what I'm doing here.
I know, from the symbolic metaphoric, here was the favorite part of the dream just before I woke up. I was looking out of a window from this burning house and across like a big expanse of grass and trees and green and all the things that we lost, right? And used to love so much. And I see a distant rooftop, and they're not that so distant that I couldn't see, or in my dream, I'm not visually impaired. That's nice. And it was a peacock on a rooftop, and the peacock was kind of sliding down this rooftop as they do, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyone who's in a community with peacocks knows exactly what I'm talking about. The peacocks kind of like dancing down your roof and sliding down before they do their very awkward dinosaur pterodactyl like flap to fly down on up and down from a roof. But yeah, the peacock is sliding, and there are two ravens on its back, like riding the peacock and just enjoying themselves. I don't know. We'll unpack. It's like a whole episode to unpack that. If any therapists are listening and want to
I'm
send
sure
us
the
a note.
therapists are like, "Oh shit, Johnny, you got some problems."
So I'm
You're like,
gonna
"Tell me something I don't know."
oh my gosh. So I'm gonna bring us back quickly to the EDA, CBDG, what's happening, what to look for, or what to expect to happen next, right? Let's wrap it up for people of what to expect next. And I
I
also want to
really don't know. I really don't know. I
we don't
mean,
know. So now we wait. We get
I
to this and
think
we hurry up and wait some more.
well, I think what's happening is, the county and the city are probably having to try to put together proposals for the feds to determine what they want, what they need, and what is
Yeah.
actually required. Um, and then I think the feds need to determine which way they want to go. They can go with the CDBG, but is that what they want? Or do they want to open up this new door with the EDA and make people go, well, you know what?
Hey,
I guess what they
here's a
tell
way.
you is in business school, when you do a negotiation, they teach you have to have alternatives or else you can't negotiate. And I think, the alternatives were fund it or don't fund it or somewhere in the middle of that up to
Hmm.
this point. I think, but the parameters were pretty well defined. It's just a question of how much are they going to get and how are they going to do that. I think what the EDA does is it changes those parameters and says, well, guess what? Now we don't have to do the parameters. We can go over here. And what does that open up from a funding perspective? And, can we start to bring in the AB 797 as a
Yeah.
model of what we can do, Um, but we don't need to have legislation from the state. We'll just do it through this authority. Do we want so we bring in CRA, we can bring in, do we go to Congress and we say, okay, guys, we want you to do the opportunity zones? Do we want you to do, increase the low income housing tax credits because that's the one hole that the EDA has.
Yeah.
And do we have to build this capital stack? Do we look at, talking to SBA and getting this shared equity model so we can fix that $200,000 or less donut hole that a lot of people have that, or, reduce the debt that they're having to take on to get back into their homes. Like these are things that once you start to open up the EDA side, we could start to backfill a lot of these components that we've talked about, which the CDBG is very much top down county run. And we all know what the county how much has the county done that's been effective so far?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
you know,
mean,
and and
arguably
and,
not a
and then
lot.
again back to the questions that you and I have been going through with the media, like there's some serious problems that exist within the county's
Yeah.
rebuild that we haven't
Yeah.
even addressed. And
Exactly.
you
and
know,
that are becoming more challenging to address. And we're going to get into that next. But yeah, I want to raise before we wrap up this segment, why there is still like we just talked about it having an economic development plan and all these things and how all of this then, overlays and
but there is no
becomes
economic development
but
plan
that's
for
my
the
point. I'd like to talk about that. Like, why is there no economic development plan for Altadena? Like, we have such an opportunity having seen two of our major commercial corridors virtually destroyed, North Lake
yeah.
and Fair Oaks, to implement, again, opportunity zones, which I've been harping on for many months, as you know, and you've talked about this too. But like I always go back to that example because it's right under our nose in Old Pasadena, and how that opportunity zone funding was leveraged to completely redevelop a community. And not to,
Well,
I think it's always important to know it can be done through an Altadena lens. I think people get nervous of like, oh, gentrification, you know, uh, well, no, it's like, how do we actually have a say in how this is rebuilt and get the community that we want back? Because the community
well,
we loved is gone, right? Like, I think that's unfortunately what we have to accept, that's gone.
yeah.
So it's like, how do we build? I hate using this Biden expression because I thought it was
Build
one of
back
the,
better.
oh geez, I thought that was like the worst campaign slogan ever. It's so awkward. It's terrible grammar. It's not proper English. It makes me mad, wild and mad. But the editor in me is like, no, please stop. But but that is it. Like, how do we build back a better community, right?
Well, I
Um,
think I think that to answer your question, first of all, you got to get the county out of the way because the county doesn't want anything to do with economic development in Altadena. I mean, I think it's been very
yeah.
clear.
You
Um,
want to say why? Because it's obvious to me, and I'm sure
well,
it's
I
obvious
know.
to you
I
too.
mean, there are two answers. Number one, the cynic in you says they don't want incorporation because then you're building
Correct.
up the sales tax base, which can allow
Exactly. It would give
Altadena
us
to
too much
exist on its
freedom.
own.
It would give us too much control and freedom because those financials would be transparent. It's a lot harder to
It,
hide commercial financials than it is
well,
property tax.
there's another factor here is that the county's very poor at doing economic development. I think anybody right now in Los Angeles realizes that economically we're not moving in the right direction and we have some serious headwinds and I don't think they have any idea of what they're doing when it comes to this.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm not the only one who shares this. There are a lot of people
I
even
know.
in the economic development space that feel very similar. We don't have the right leadership to address these concerns. And
Right.
the things that we're doing are very similar to what we're doing in Altadena with the rebuild is that we're using $1,000 to fix $1 million problems or $1 million to
Right.
fix $1 billion problems. I mean, and I don't think there's a concerted plan. I don't think there's a vision. I don't think there's anything, and I don't think they give a shit, to be honest. And it's a travesty because Altadena, in and of itself, could become a beacon of economic development in Southern California, considering the rich resources, not just resources, but rich resources that we have in our community. And we've got JPL, we've got Caltech, we've got
Yep.
the mechanisms to do it. We have
I
aerospace
talk
and
about
defense
all of this all the
all around
time.
us,
I know.
and we don't have to do manufacturing or we can reimagine manufacturing. I was talking to somebody last night about this, and they work in economic development, and they worked with the city in multiple mayor administrations, and around redevelopment, and now they're into low income housing. But the question becomes, well, what is Los Angeles is going to look like, and what the true canary in the coal mine to me with entertainment culling back is it's yes, there's production and that's a problem, but it's the post production and the pre production, the ancillary businesses that are the multiplier for the industry that we lose those, you're never getting it back. And you want to maintain that element of specialization that keeps people coming back to Los Angeles or back to our
Yeah.
economy, back to our community. I mean, they talk about it with San Francisco, with Silicon Valley. Like at the end of the day, Silicon Valley is still businesses are leaving California, but the founders are staying in Silicon Valley and it's incubating out. It's been hard for other areas to replicate the success of Silicon Valley in that whatever that node is. I think Los Angeles is losing this. And I think when we look at our economy here now, it's that 10 to $100 million businesses that we need to really focus on maintaining.
Yeah.
And the family owned businesses, they're not going to be
And you've
Fortune
heard,
500
yeah,
companies.
no, you've heard me talk about this many times because of, my personal professional background, and the fact that the reality is the state and our city like to talk a lot about supporting small business and being boosters of small business, but when it comes down to actual dollars, and putting your money where your mouth is, it's not real. Or in
Well, we
cutting
don't
red
need
tape and allowing
dollars.
permitting. No, it's a lot. It's cutting red tape. It's everything that can be done, through for taxation. Don't get me started on the idiocy of, oh my gosh, what was the I can't remember the AB now because, so much has happened in the last year, 18 months, but the previous the bill that was heavily labor and union backed that effectively made it illegal to work as a consultant or a contractor.
Yeah, I
Help me
remember
out.
that.
What was
That
the
was
name of
like
that? What was the name
I
of
can't
it?
remember. I
But
can't
man,
remember.
it destroyed people. It destroyed the businesses of so many people I know. And this was, like under the Democratic banner of like, if you're a Democrat, this is good. And all of us who are very much Democrats were like, this is terrible. This is putting people out of business and having them penalized for just like actually creating mechanisms to work that work for them. It was, and all of this was, the fallout of Uber. It was all the fallout of Uber and wanting to go after Uber and like make Uber, pay their fair share for their employees who are ultimately employees, not contractors, based on, the litmus that we use to make those for those definitions. But, again, they couldn't get Uber. So instead they got everybody else. They got the people
Yeah,
with the $500,000 to $2 million a year businesses. And,
yeah.
um, and decimated them. And
Hmm.
people who are
The
already like,
knowledge
wow,
economy.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, like I'm just getting by, and just making this work for myself and my family. And now, cool, let's make it impossible and get us all into nightmare legal scenarios with the labor board. Um, it's it's so misguided, right? And so I see a lot of that still just happening, and it's maddening. I don't know what else to say. It's maddening, but we can wrap this up. I think, again, just to kind of underscore this part of the conversation, I think it's important to always remember that, it's Altadena today and the Palisades. It was Paradise, it was North Carolina, it was Texas, it was New Orleans. It's all of these in North Carolina, all of these other states and towns prior to us. It's us right now. It's going to be someone else tomorrow. Like before we blink an eye, it's going to be someone else tomorrow because this is our new reality. And it's now a matter of, what are we doing to fix it? Because we're not the first, we're not the last. And we do need solutions, like as we've said so many times, like what's happening here is just a microcosm for the rest of the nation. And there's an opportunity for us and including, and I've said this before, the state and Newsom to actually do something significant that would set the tone and would create, a replicable program for how people address this in other states in the future. And it's such a huge opportunity that's been, in my opinion, completely wasted. And it could be incredible political capital, and it's not being leveraged. And to me, that's incredibly short-sighted.
they let they let this pass when they killed
Yeah.
797. And again,
Yeah.
everybody up here knows about it. Everybody
I know.
shakes their head.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
like, what were they thinking? Like, why? Why would you do that? I think
Yep.
everybody knows the answer, but
Yeah.
it's
We
just
do. It's
it's
frustrating. It's
sad.
still maddening
It's
and sad.
sad.
It is. So as
It's sad
we're
because it affects the people of Altadena and the people
right.
of California, and it
Yeah.
wasn't in
We're collateral
whose
damage
interest was
again.
it in? Yeah.
Exactly. We are just collateral damage again. So with that, I mean, I think, for regular listeners, we didn't open with a media roundup because we wanted to jump straight into this issue, but also because there wasn't any major news to talk about this week beyond a couple of things that we are going to touch on. But I think what is worth talking about is the fact that a lot of major media, including national, in particular national media, um, have kind of moved on. And
Who told you this
it's
was going to happen?
per oh no, we've talked about this, but like for real. And it's been very interesting to see the tone change and to just be told kind of off record, by various editors, like, hey, we're shifting our coverage. There's just too much happening in the world to continue to cover local things. And so, I think we are going to have to be aware of the fact that it's going to be more challenging than ever now at this 14, 15-month mark, especially going to 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, we're going to become like paradise, where they're begging for anyone to listen to them. Nobody cares. Everyone's moved on because there's been 10 other crises since. And not that their problems aren't real and valid and deserving and worthy of time and attention and fixes. They need fixes. But the news cycle is fast. The fact that we've been able to, I think, stay as relevant and top of mind as we have for as long as we have is a testament to so many people in our community working hard to keep us in various stories, and some of our journalists who've worked really hard to do that and keep us front of mind. But yeah, it was really interesting to hear with a couple of large stories, a couple of major out that are legit and verified and well sourced, and all of this, to have them be like, well, we just don't have the resources to allocate to do the work that needs to be done. And yeah,
Well, because our
because
stories
there's so
have
many
to
other things to
become,
talk about, like a fucking war. But anyhow, yeah, we're not going to get into that. Yeah.
look, I have been trying, that's why I've been doing what I've been doing. And,
Yep.
it's about putting our situation into the broader context. That's where we've had to go. We've had to continue to try to drive toward that. And, it's really hard when our community wants to the strength of Altadena is its locality and the way we are insular in many respects.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also our weakness because
Exactly.
we don't put ourselves into this broader context, this broader conversation, and contextualize it for others to understand the gravity of what we're going through.
Yep.
And right now, quite frankly, the only thing we have that is national news to the extent that it is this fight over disaster aid. And
Right.
like it's money, it's tens of billions of dollars. It's got people focused for however long that we have. And I think once we get through this process, you know, this is the moment. And if they get what they want with the CDBG and they start fund, it's going to be drip, 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 and they're going to drag us out. So I think where we can have a voice is in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much else there is.
I don't
I
either.
mean,
Yeah,
we
I don't
have
either. I mean,
some
other than,
support in
of course,
Sacramento,
yeah,
but Sacramento's thrown up their hands disgusted with what's going on. I mean,
I
the
know.
legislature can only do so much. And we saw what the governor did when we got a bill to his desk on the last day. He just said, "Psst,
Yep.
veto, sorry,
Yeah, I know.
piss off."
Speaking of Gavin, um, one of the news stories that did hit, this morning is that and yesterday is that Gavin is all in on Bass, on Mayor Bass, Karen Bass. He is like,
Good for him.
this is the candidate I endorse fully, blah blah. It's the party, falling in
It's the
lockstep with one
machine.
another. It's the machine, but like, oh my gosh, like talk about backing a bad pony. It's a dead pony. And this is the next part that I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. The other report that hit yesterday was that Bass's top challenger, like the only other candidate who's a real threat, per Bass's own data and polling, is Spencer Pratt. Uh,
Well, I
which is,
said,
again, this is how Trump happened. This is how Trump happened. People are just fed up, and then they're like, "Fuck it, just whatever." So vote for someone else because fuck this. I get it. It's people are beyond frustrated and they're desperate for something different. But like, it's talk about out of the pan and into the fryer. Good grief.
well, look, I mean, the reality is that the mayor, the mayor and Councilwoman Rahman are not very far off. Now, I think that
Yeah,
they're underestimating her. I think that that would be a huge
I do
mistake. That
too.
they're,
Yeah, Nitya.
and this might be part of the managing expectations to drive
Mm-hmm.
her down.
Yep.
But I mean, look, I wrote a lot about this early on, and I said that the primary is going to be driven primarily. The mayoral is a low turnout election, especially in an off year and a midterm. And those districts, the seats in Los Angeles are going to remain where they are. There's no real competitive congressional district races. I mean, maybe Sherman and Jake Levine, but I mean, the reality is it's not like you're going to have this big turnout that's going to bring people to the polls, and that
Right.
favors her, and that's always
Yeah.
favored her.
Yep.
And
No, I
labor is
mean,
already
incumbents
behind
are always
her.
favored. Incumbents
Well,
are
and
always
especially when you
favored.
have labor and you have the machine behind her, And
Yep.
Congress, Councilwoman Rahman has offended a lot of who would otherwise come out to support her in the DSAs. And that part is split. I don't think Adam Miller, who's the centrist, has the gravitas to get to where he needs to get
Nope.
to at the speed at which it needs to happen. I mean, he doesn't have Matt Mahan money behind him. So, I mean, yeah, the only other guy is Spencer Pratt, and he knows how to get eyeballs,
Yep.
whether
Yes,
you
he
like him or
does.
not.
Exactly.
What do they say about DC? It's Hollywood for ugly people. I mean, it's very much,
Or
it's very
in
much.
this case, for highly augmented people. Welcome to California.
Well, but I mean, it's Hollywood, right? Like we had Schwarzenegger, Jesse the Body Ventura was a governor at one
Yeah.
time, like
Hey,
Ronald
so was
Reagan. I mean,
Schwarzenegger.
yeah, Ronald Reagan. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
We
not
all voted for a
surprising.
movie star. It's not
Yeah,
surprising. No, no. I mean,
and
again, Trump.
so,
It was like Trump, it was The Apprentice. It was like, oh, Trump, the
oh yeah, I
businessman. I
forgot
mean,
about
we
him.
all got right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're trying. I wish I could forget.
Well, I
We
don't
wake
think of
up.
him as
I'm
a
waiting to
movie
wake up
star.
for that nightmare. He's not a movie star, but he was,
I don't think
that
of him
kind
as
of
a movie
figure.
star at first. But
No.
he was always very much in that like entertainment, reality world. I mean, look
Yeah.
at Great Hair Don't Care. Our governor is another one.
What are
He's
we talking
very
about?
much a
Gray hair
movie
don't
star.
care? Is that a
Great
thing?
Hair
Gray
Don't
hair don't
Care.
care? Oh, well,
No,
hi.
great.
Here I am.
I have a buddy so we all have trail names, and mine is El Toro because I just want to get off the mountain as quickly as possible. His is Great Hair Don't Care, and I'm gonna give that to Governor Newsom right now because he is great hair and he doesn't care
Oh.
about us. That is, it's about as good as it comes.
Ay. Well, on that cheery note, I want to touch before we wrap up this episode. I want to touch on a couple things quickly. The AG investigation that Altadena for
Mhm.
Accountability secured is underway. People in the community,
Good.
I actually had someone in my group, an older woman in my group, shared an email she received from the AG's office, from the DOJ, and she shared it and she was like, "Oh my gosh, is this a phishing scam? What is
The
this?" And I was like,
California
"Oh no."
DOJ, the
Correct.
California DOJ. Be careful
Correct.
because there's the
Okay.
other one here.
There's a different,
Yeah.
and the one that you don't want to, there's the one that you do and the one you don't hear from. But
Yeah, that this one,
yeah,
the
you
one
don't
here
want
you
that
don't
one.
want. No, you
Correct.
don't want to be the school superintendent and have
No.
the windbreaker
Correct.
show up.
Yeah, no shit. Oh my gosh, the windbreakers. Yeah. Oy. That is other nightmare material. We've covered a lot of nightmare material. Um, so
Well, I'm
she
in
was,
Washington. I mean, I
I
expect this
know,
stuff
there it
here.
is. You're in it. So she was concerned that it was a phishing email or a scam, right? And I was like, oh no, that's real. And so we're still trying to figure out, kind of how this is happening. Are these people that contacted the office with reports previously? In this first round, or like where this is coming from, but a number of people have been contacted, which has been very interesting. But the point being, you know, I'm going to remain optimistic that this is in fact a real thorough investigation and that Altadena does get some justice and accountability out of it. And if you are in our community west of Lake, keep an eye on your inboxes, or if you have a story to share, maybe you want to reach out and share it. I don't know. The fact that they're listening to the community is huge because that has not happened at all. None of that was taken into factor for the other um, reports because they were not true investigations. So I'm kind of heartened to see that. So with that, I was going to talk about, wrap it up with our small business shout outs. Um, can you believe that it's Purim, by the way? I was speaking, so this actually does tie in. I don't even know what day or month it is anymore. Like, my birthday's in a few days. I'm like, what? Like,
Oh, you're
what's even?
Pisces.
And you're a Gemini.
I definitely am a Gemini.
I know. It's a wild, wild time for us right now, astrologically, but we won't dig too deep into
I
that. Do you
don't
know what
even
your
know.
rise? Do you know
I
what?
just know
So
there's
you don't know your rising sign then?
no.
I'm very curious to know what your rising sign is, but we'll dig into that another day. So actually, I was talking to this. Actually, does all tie into the small business shout out. I, for the first time, actually recommended a few
Miss
builders,
Cleo.
and
Oh,
I love Miss Cleo. No, I don't suggest that Miss Cleo build your house, though. I don't know. She couldn't do much worse of a job than some of the builders that are in Altadena right now. One who I won't name, but oh my gosh, I think I'm going to call them Miss Cleo from now on. So thank you for that. I needed that today. I have been really hesitant to refer or, recommend any builders. I've been asked a lot, like, who would you use or who's your contractor? And I have an amazing contractor, but I'm not even confident he's the right person to rebuild this house, or that he'll even have the bandwidth because he's working on so many mega projects. And I've really been torn, but I've spent so much time in Altadena the last few months. I'm up there like every other day for hours. And now I'm like watching houses go up. I mean, I'm obviously following the dirt business. I'm looking at foundations being laid. I'm noting where soil compaction happened, where it half-ass happened, where it didn't happen at all. And I'm just extremely disturbed because that house will be compromised in an earthquake. And that's not an if or when, but an if, or if, but when, right? Like we know, like
Hmm.
I don't think we're going to have another fire anytime soon, but we are going to have a major earthquake at some point. And that's at least in my mind with the rebuild. But with that, I've now seen a few builders who are absolutely rebuilding the right way. And so I'll share them here. I mean, one is GABA Construction. I had a great conversation with Joab. I also he's building homes for developers right now and investors who purchase lots. But very interestingly, he caught my eye because he had built a replica of a Craftsman home um, adjacent to me, just south of Farnsworth Park. Um, Not for the owner who lost it because they chose to sell and leave, but the developer investor who bought that lot said, the home that was here was perfect. Like the home that was on this lot is the perfect home for this lot. And he rebuilt a replica of this Craftsman down to battling the county to get approval to find the right material to do the beautiful notched dove exposed wood beams and eaves, like absolutely, which the county's trying to stop us, but as we all know, that's not what burned our houses down. So that I was really impressed. He also did a modern build for another developer up on Monte Rosa, and that just hit the market. So as I keep saying, if you're going to consider anyone, make sure you can really walk through their builds and look at finishes and look at grout and tile and floorboards and outlets and really see and open cupboards and like really see the quality and craftsmanship, open doors and windows of how these homes were built, right? Because you can really feel the difference. So I was really impressed with him. It's Joab at GABA Construction. That was one. The other is Joey at Gold Coast. I call him Gold Coast Construction, but I think he's actually Gold Coast Solutions. Joey's
Hmm.
also, been at this a long time, doing a lot of builds. And by the way, Joab, who I just mentioned, is also doing work in the Palisades. Like it's beautiful stuff. These other guys, Joey at Gold Coast, again, really beautiful work, doing it the right way, taking time and really good to the owners. Um, really impressed with him and his work. So that he went on my short list. A company called Sky Builders, who that's Robert and Zach. They are, and it's for anyone who wants to Google them, I believe it's Sky Builders ZRH. And they are actually Israeli, first generation Americans, Israeli Americans. Their dads, so it's Zach and Robert, but their dad started the business. They've been doing both remodels, renos, and ground up builds for two generations. And they function as a design build. So you can come with your own plans, but the way they love to work is that they will actually design your home, do all the structural engineering, do all the permitting, help you eke everything you can out of your insurance policy, if you have insurance to lean on. And I was actually really impressed with their craftsmanship. I'm going to meet with them today. In fact, I'm kind of excited about that. And Steve, have you not heard me ever excited about the prospect of rebuilding until now?
I was,
Because I
I
actually
was sitting
really,
here, but what's
really like
interesting
these
is,
guys.
and I think it's really important that you qualify this, that, you've been approached by multiple builders and
Oh
multiple
yeah.
people in this space to,
Yep.
endorse their
Yep.
projects and endorse their product
Correct.
for
Money.
consideration.
Correct. I keep being
And
offered
you
referral
are
fees or
not being
compensation.
offered
No.
anything
Nope.
to say these things. Okay.
No,
I
I'm
just,
not.
I
In
think it's
fact, thank
important
you.
that listeners
No, it
hear
is. And
this.
thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. I don't do pay for play. And as anyone who's been listening a while knows, like Steve and I take no money. We self fund all of this. We're not funded by anyone or any interest because, every dollar, including from the best nonprofits, comes with strings because everyone has needs that have to be met. And I'm just not interested in that for this. So as long as I can continue to do it on my own independently, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So yes, I was very clear when I shared, and I'll be clear here, and I was clear with the builders too. Like I expect zero consideration for any of this. That's not why I'm sharing. I'm sharing because I want my neighbors to have good homes that they can come back to, homes that are affordable, builders they can trust, people that are truly going to take care of them, and for our neighbors not to continue to get fucked, because that is happening and it's so disturbing, especially our elders.
Yeah.
It's every time I see it, I'm so deeply bothered. And there's just so little we can do. What do you tell someone who's having a bad build underway, who's already contracted, already hundreds of $1,000s deep and wildly undershired? What do you say? You say nothing, because what are they going to do? There's nothing for them to
Well,
do. They're going to sue and get nowhere, because as we all know, like you don't really get any, these guys have no money, and there's, I mean, you get their bond and that's like a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's just, it's bad on bad on bad. But I wanted to talk about something good. And these builders are actually doing things that are good. There's another one-stop shop for anyone who wants that kind of experience called Synergy. They actually opened up an office on Lincoln. I met their head of marketing, actually, Steve, at Unincorporated Coffee, had a great chat with him, went and toured their studio, looked at their materials, looked at some of their builds. They've come out of Napa, where they rebuilt a lot of Napa after their major wildfire. And their work was also beautiful. So I just wanted to share that, but there are some good ones, and I know we're hearing tons and we're seeing tons, but I also know that even, and of course I've already talked about Foothill Catalog, Altadena Collective. There are some really great resources, but even in those resources that are so great, um, it's how do I put this? Even they have lists of builders who aren't all great. There's some people on their list of approved vendors that, bluntly wouldn't be on my list. And I wouldn't let them build anything for me ever. But yeah, it's, I think the bottom line here is everyone's got to do their due diligence, do their homework. Don't take anyone's, including my word for it. Go see a build, walk through it, talk to past clients. How are these homes holding up 5 to 10 years later, right? We're all making $1 million plus investments. Know exactly what you're getting and what you're getting into. And if this helps someone listening, great. I really hope that it does. With that, I was going to say, I was sharing like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's Purim. And I said that because when I was talking to Sky Builders yesterday, because Purim was actually last night. And yesterday, he was like, oh, Chag Sameach. And I was like, wait, what? What holiday? What do you, what, like, I was like, oh no, they're going to revoke
which
my
one?
Jew card for real this time. Um,
I only know about
but
two
it's Purim. So, and everyone should
or
Google
three.
Purim. I love Purim. But anyhow, it was a great reminder of the fact that I was thinking, it made me think of the Pasadena Jewish Temple's calendar. And like I share that through our Substack, not just Substack, but rather through our social media. So a reminder, and I remind people in our group, and I want to, oh, my dog is barking because he actually saw the mailman. He's deaf as a doorpost. He can't hear anything, but he visually saw the mailman, so it's on. That hasn't happened in like since the fire, actually, because he's never seen the mail. But uh, back to this, and forgive me, listeners, with the dog, that Spike in the background, my 5 pound attack poodle, old man. Um, Follow our social media stories both on if you're on Facebook, it's there. On Instagram, if you're there, I literally post and share like 500 plus events and happenings and calendars every month. People are constantly saying like, where do I follow? Where do I find this? Where I always miss everything. Go to our stories, really look at them daily. There'll be tons like specials at local restaurants, all of that. Like, anyhow, it's worth, just taking a minute. You'll get it. You'll find everything you need. And I will finally end on this note. I always get asked where this shirt is from, this Altadena shirt. It's actually was my profile photo on my social media before the fire because I loved this shirt. It was one of the first and few things that I quickly replaced. This shirt's from Zydeco. I love this kind of like 70s vibe because I'm a 70s baby. And yeah, you can find this at Zydeco. And Zydeco is still not fully opened, but they've been doing a bunch of pop-up shops. And Zydeco, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is located at Lake in Mariposa at Mariposa Junction.
And with that, we're just
There we
under an
are.
hour.
There we
All
are.
right. You
Not
did
bad
it,
for
Shauna.
a special episode, a very special episode.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for bearing
Okay.
with us for those of you that have had to listen to a bunch of a political science lecture.
We try to make the poli sci fun
Well, I
and
tried.
weird
I
and a
tried.
little weird. Let's keep our poli sci weird because that's what we want for Altadena. We got to keep Altadena weird.
Indeed.
Good
Indeed.
luck to the newcomers. They don't even know
All
about
right.
our
Well,
initiations yet.
hopefully we get this up and people can hear it,
We will.
because I
Yeah,
know
we've had a little.
Washington's very much wanting to understand a little bit
We're
more
gonna get it
too.
up. We've had a little delay for our listeners wondering why we're prattling on about this. We've had a little technical difficulty again. Man, Mercury's in Gatorade again, and it is Gatorading in a big way because our files exported but aren't uploading, and so it's now a help ticket, and hopefully that will be resolved ASAP because we want to get these episodes live. So
All
we
right.
hope you're listening to these soon. Steve,
If
enjoy the
not,
rest of your trip.
thank you. I'll see you when I get back.
We'll see you when you get back. For everyone listening, Steve Sachs, Alta Policy Wonk on Substack, Shauna Dawson Beer, Beautiful Altadena. You can find us, well, you can find us both on Substack, but you can also find me and our groups and all of our wonderful things for locals that have been
Everywhere.
going for a decade plus everywhere. Yes, let's look for Beautiful Altadena. And with
I
that,
will
we'll see
work
you
on the
next time.
Instagram thing. I know you want me
Do
to do
it.
it.
Do it. Do it. Do it. We're going
All
to
right.
get Steve on social media one way or another.
All right. Bye, Shauna. We'll see you later.
Bye, Steve. Bye, everyone.